Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So I'm going to give you all a few minutes to tune in before I get started. I know it's very early in the morning, and I'm sure not that many people are on YouTube right now, but I just want to share my thoughts about a video that I saw yesterday, and I finished watching it today. It's a very interesting Google Hangout, and I encourage you all to check it out. And the name of the Hangout is Black Men versus Black Women. ZaZa Ali, Boyce, Watkins, Cynthia G, Garfield, and Akua. This was a hangout that Angel Ramirez-Jordan did on his channel, but I actually watched it on ZaZa Ali's channel, and I will include a link in the description box so that you all can watch it for yourself when you get a chance to, if you haven't seen it already. Shout out to Water Sniper. What's good? Thanks for tuning in. Good morning to you. I see a couple of people are in here, so I'm going to get started in a second. And before I get started, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to ask people, how many of you actually saw this Google Hangout that I'm referring to? Just let me share my screen for a second. Okay, so this is the Google Hangout that I'm talking about. It's the Hangout that Angel had on his channel, but again, I saw it on ZaZa Ali's channel. It's Black Men versus Black Women. And a lot of the participants are prominent YouTubers. ZaZa Ali was on there, Boyce Watkins, Cynthia G, Garfield, and a new YouTuber that I'm not really familiar with, Akua. So shout out to them. Shout out to Angel Ramirez-Jordan for putting it together, because I think it was a great conversation. And this is something that Angel is famous for, putting together these great Google Hangouts that a lot of people talk about that generate a lot of controversy. He often has a good mix of panelists, panelists that don't agree on a lot of issues. And that's good to have the back and forth and the debates going on. So, another great Google Hangout from Angel. He always does these Hangouts that a lot of people end up talking about. He had a Hangout with what's her name? The girl who swirls, back in the day, that generated some controversy because of some debates that went on with that one. He had one with the brother, Robert Perkins, AKA the nigga with the tattoos. Great discussions, man. And he had some with Angry Man. Great Google Hangouts. And, so, I appreciate these Hangouts, and I like the discussion that follows after his Hangouts. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick, and I'm going to look at the comments before I get started. And I want to thank the people who are tuning in. I know it's early, but sometimes you just got to roll with things, man. You got to just go with the vibe, just speak on things when the spirit moves you. So shout out to Evan King. What's good? Shout out to Def Rocker. Shout out to B Intellectual Williams. Shout out to y'all. Thanks for tuning in. So Water Sniper, you heard what Psycho and Olivia R had to say about it. And that's where I first heard about it from, Olivia R. I check out her channel. She has a great channel, and she mentioned it. So I said, well, let me go back and check this out. I saw it, because I'm subscribed to ZaZa, and I saw the Hangout, but I didn't watch it at that time. But when I saw Olivia's commentary on it, I said, well, I have to check this out. I have to see what's going on with this Hangout. And, obviously it was very controversial. The subject was Black men versus Black women. They were talking about relationships issues. They were talking about accountability. And basically, Sonetta really set off the discussion when he brought up the question of Black women submitting to Black men. That basically was like dropping a bomb in the middle of a conversation. And that really got things going. Not only was ZaZa Ali set off, but it really set off Cynthia G, and it really generated the key point that I want to focus on for this discussion. You know, some of the things that Cynthia G said, and you know, people who are familiar with her channel know that she's not one to have much respect for Black men. You know, she never misses an opportunity to bash Black men, and this was no different. You know, so basically, when Sarnetta said that, let me go back. So Sarnetta basically said that Black women do not want to submit to a Black man. You know, they talk about how they want a good Black man, but when they get a Black man, there's a good Black man, they're not willing to submit to him or listen to him or to respect him, basically. And, you know, a lot of women want to run the show and this and that. You know, so that was a key point that he raised. And a lot of women naturally responded. You know, they had a natural reaction to the word submit. They did not like that terminology. And as I listened to Olivia R's commentary on this as well, she did not like that terminology either. And I don't think many Black women would appreciate that kind of terminology, the idea of a Black woman submitting to a man. And there's a wide range of reasons why that's the case. But one thing that ZaZa Ali brought up about that whole submission piece was that it was Eurocentric. You know, the way that Sarnetta was speaking was from a Eurocentric type of perspective, from a white supremacist type of perspective, following the example of white male patriarchy. So that was part of her issue with what Sarnetta was talking about and the tone of what he was talking about. And, you know, basically she brought up the point of how, you know, the sun, you know, she did an analogy where she compared like the sun and the trees to a relationship. And she said, you know, the sun doesn't have to ask the tree to submit. You know, the sun and the trees and plant life have a relationship. Without the sun, the trees and plant life cannot thrive. And, you know, basically she was drawing that analogy between a relationship, basically saying that a man shouldn't be in a position where he has to ask somebody to submit, where he has to demand that somebody submit. And then she also talked about how that kind of language is problematic given the state of Black women, the position that Black women have been put in, the oppression of Black women that is taking place. So that was a really interesting discussion. And I just want to share my whole viewpoint on this issue of submission. But before I get into that, I want to talk about what Cynthia G said. Now, in response to that, Cynthia G basically said, well, how can a Black man submit? You know, how can a Black man actually expect a Black woman to submit to a Black man when the Black man doesn't control anything, when the Black man is submissive to the white man? Why would any Black woman in her right mind submit to a Black man? And then she went on to talk about how Black men as a collective have done nothing to fight white supremacy. And she said that Black men did nothing while the slave master was raping Black women, while the slave master was violating Black women, while the slave master was oppressing Black women and Black people. The Black man did nothing. This is what Cynthia G said. And of course, you had pushback. You had the brother Garfield basically provide examples of Black men doing something, Black men fighting, Black men standing up. And then you also had the sister ZaZa Ali, who basically pointed out how, you know, she knows a lot of strong, positive men, you know, that are making a difference in their community. So she took issue with this characterization and generalization of Black men, you know, that Cynthia G presented. And I think that ZaZa Ali was on point with her comments. You know, I think she was on point with this whole idea, you know, in terms of countering this myth that Black men did nothing. I think she was on point, and the brother Garfield was on point. But regardless of whatever kind of facts and information people presented, whatever kind of examples people presented, Cynthia G just had her blinders on. She would not listen to anything that anybody had to say. She basically had her earmuffs on and her blinders on, so she would not take in any kind of positive examples of what Black men have actually done throughout history and what Black men are doing today. She merely dismissed it as being a few individuals doing something and not the collective. So I have to address this point. And I think that before I go on to address this, I want to talk about, something key that the sister ZaZa Ali pointed out. She talked about how Black women need to basically be empathetic and loving. They need to speak life into men, inspire men. And, she talked about that. She talked about the need for love in our community. She talked about those things. And, I appreciate that. I appreciate a woman that can see both sides of issues, that can talk about Black male accountability as well as Black women accountability. And, that's what we need in our community. We need people who have compassion for one another, people who have love for one another, people who have respect for one another. And that's not something that I see in Cynthia G. All I see in her is anger. All I see in her is pain. All I see in her is bitterness. And I see her lashing out at Black men as a collective. So that's the first thing that I want to point out. This woman has, referred to her own father as a sperm donor. So obviously she has daddy issues. Obviously she doesn't have much respect for Black men. And that's a shame, man. It's a shame to see someone in such a state of hatred that they cannot, express any kind of love or respect for Black men. And you can't be in a real fight against white supremacy if you are not really motivated by love. Our struggle should be motivated by a profound love for the people. And when I listen to Cynthia G, I don't hear any love. I don't hear any love for Black people. All I hear is criticism of Black people. I don't hear any love for Black men. All I hear is criticism of Black men. All I hear is hatred from her. Not only does she hate white people, she even hates Black people. And you can't inspire anybody with hatred. You can't inspire a movement with hatred. You can't create change with hatred. You have to be motivated by love. And that reminds me of a scene from the movie, The Spook Who Sat by the Door. And the brother, for those of you who aren't familiar with this movie, it's about this guy that worked for the CIA, this Black guy who basically used all the skills that he gained from the CIA to wage a guerrilla warfare against white America. He raised up an army of guerrilla Black soldiers who waged all-out war against the United States government. And his brother talked about how you have to be motivated by love if you're fighting for Black liberation. This brother said the hate will leave you when you shoot and kill people. You will lose that hatred that you have, and you won't be able to fight. So you really have to be motivated by love if you want to be a revolutionary fighting for the people. And that's what I say with this whole Cynthia G thing, man. I think that she is not motivated by love. She's motivated by hatred. And she never misses an opportunity to emasculate Black men. You can't inspire Black men by talking about how they're nothing and they haven't done anything and they never will do anything. That's not inspiring language. That's not going to inspire any Black men to stand up or to fight for freedom and stuff like that. And the fact of the matter is, despite the fact that she kept saying that nobody has rebutted her points, you had the brother Garfield rebut her points. You even have Boyce Watkins rebut some of her points, and the sister ZaZa Ali. And what I want to do is right now is just take a few minutes to rebut some of the points that she made. And I'm going to get to your comments in a second, but I'm going to share my screen for a second. Just bear with me a minute. Okay, so this is from Wikipedia. So you had Cynthia G basically say Black men did nothing while the slave master was raping Black women, while the slave master was enslaving Black people and brutalizing Black women. But we know that there is a long history of rebellion in the Black community. There's a long history of slave rebellions in America. And this right here is a list of these slave rebellions, of some of them. I'm sure that this is not a comprehensive list. I'm sure that there are probably more than this. But it goes on and on, example after example. You have this slave revolt. I mean, and I'm just going to talk about the ones that stand out that we all are familiar with. You have Nat Turner's slave rebellion, where you had black men standing up, risking everything, for their people, going from plantation to plantation, killing the slave master and the slave master's families, plantation to plantation. You can't tell me that that is nothing. You can't tell me that that's black men standing by while black women are raped, while black women are abused. That's an example of black men standing up, sacrificing their lives, realizing that freedom is more precious than to continue to live under tyranny, in the words of Farrakhan. They realized that, so they went from plantation to plantation, taking out the slave master. We have the example of the Amistad rebellion that took place on the Amistad boat, where you had brothers seize control over a slave ship. And you have all these other examples, the example of Denmark Vesey planning a slave revolt. All these examples of black men standing up and being men. All of these slave rebellions that are listed here are examples of black men as a collective doing something to fight against white supremacy and racism and slavery. So you can't talk about how black men haven't done anything as a collective. When you put all these slave rebellions together, all those black men standing up boldly and courageously, sacrificing their lives, you have to acknowledge that black men as a collective did stand up. You can't have all these thousands of black men sacrificing their lives and you still say that black men as a collective have done nothing to fight slavery or nothing to stand up against white supremacy. That's an outright lie. It's an outright lie. And you have to call it out. And that's something that I want to say about Boyce Watkins. Like his commentary, he kept saying, your truth and my truth and this and that. I mean, this guy is weak. I mean, this guy didn't have just the balls to basically call Cynthia G out and say that she's flat out wrong. Instead, he was like, your truth and my truth and this and that. I mean, I just think that's weak. That's wishy-washy. You can't be weak and wishy-washy. I mean, especially when you're dealing with a woman who already views black men as weak. And by being that kind of way, by taking that kind of posture, you are not doing nothing but affirming what this woman already thinks about black men as weak and feeble and all this and that. And not only did you have slave rebellions, you also had black abolitionists, abolitionists, many of them who were black men. You also had black women, of course. But I mean, here's another link of black abolitionists, all these black men. One of the most prominent ones was Frederick Douglass, one of the boldest and most courageous voices against slavery. But yet you want to pretend like black men as a collective did nothing to fight against slavery? Are you kidding? I mean, have you opened a history book? Have you read the slave narratives? Have you read about these slave rebellions and these black abolitionists who did everything that they could in their power to fight against slavery? And now I want to move on to, during the time of the Harlem Renaissance, you had Marcus Garvey, the founder of modern day black nationalism, the leader of one of the strongest and largest black organizations ever created in America, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. They had hundreds of thousands of members, a part of an organization that was about black unity, black empowerment, about Pan-Africanism, about uniting Africans worldwide. Thousands upon thousands of members. That is a collective by any definition. You can't downplay that movement. A movement led by black men, led by black men to empower black people, With a movement like this, you can't talk about how black people as a collective, black men as a collective did nothing to fight white supremacy. We fought against white supremacy. And if this brother wasn't fighting against white supremacy, the FBI wouldn't have gone after this brother the way they did. They wouldn't have tried to destroy his organization. They wouldn't have deported this brother and discredit this brother and attack this brother. So don't talk to me about how black men are not doing anything as a collective when you have a black man like a Marcus Garvey building one of the largest movements in black history and human history, period. A strong movement against white supremacy. And then during the same period, you had organizations like the NAACP fighting against the lynching of black people in this country, fighting for civil rights in this country. Many of the leaders of that organization were black men, including W.E.B. Du Bois. Another example of black male leadership. And then when you look at the civil rights movement, a movement that this woman tries to discredit. And before I get into that, I'll just say this, man. If it wasn't for these slave rebellions, if it wasn't for those black abolitionists, we would still be in physical bondage today. We would still be slaves in this country today if it wasn't for those people that were brave enough to fight against white supremacy. So let's stop pretending like there has been no progress in our black community. And that progress has only come about because of struggle, the struggle that we waged because of agitation and because of our determination and our persistence in fighting against this oppressor. It wasn't out of the goodness of anybody's heart. It was because of our struggle. And many of those people who struggled, many of those people who led the struggle were black men. So let's not pretend like black men as a collective have done nothing. And let's get to the civil rights movement. So you had the big six that people often refer to, the big six civil rights organizations. And this is an image right here of the leadership of those organizations. Black men. Black men. You got John Lewis of SNCC. You have Whitney Young. You have A. Philip Randolph, Martin Luther King Jr., James Farmer, and Roy Wilkins, black men fighting for civil rights in this country. Because of these black men right here and all the thousands upon thousands of people who supported these black men, you had changes in this country. We were able to gain basic civil rights in this country. You know, because of these black men right here and the movement that they led, we have the rights, that we take for granted today. We want to pretend like there's no progress. Ask your grandmother or your great grandmother if the conditions today are the way they were back then, where you had to sit in the back of the bus, where you had to drink from a colored fountain, where you didn't have the right to vote, where it was fine for these people to just lynch you and there was no justice for you, where they can go into your house and take your son or your nephew out of the house in the middle of the night and lynch that nephew like they did the brother Emmett Till, and there be no justice. We don't live in those days anymore because of black men like these men who fought as a collective. These men didn't just represent those six. There are thousands upon thousands of black men who stood behind and with these brothers. So don't talk to me about how black men as a collective have done nothing. You don't know what you are talking about. Because of these men, we have a Voting Rights Act. We have a Civil Rights Act. We have a Fair Housing Act. We have certain civil rights that we take for granted today because of these strong black men. And then if you look at the Nation of Islam, another organization of black men, and I'm just going to bring up some images real quick. Just bear with me a second. An organization by Black men, led by Black men, one of the most courageous organizations ever created by Black people in this country, the Nation of Islam, an organization that gave us an Elijah Muhammad, gave us a Malcolm X, gave us a Farrakhan, gave us a Khalid Muhammad, gave us a Muhammad Ali, gave us a Imam War-of-Din Muhammad, an organization that built Black men, an organization of thousands of Black men standing up boldly and courageously as a collective. So don't talk about how Black men as a collective have done nothing to fight against white supremacy. Again, you don't know what you're talking about. And then when you look at the Black Power movement in this country, the Black Panthers, Black men led that organization. You had female leadership as well, but you had Black men, an organization of Black men standing up boldly and courageously against white supremacy. Black men that weren't on here just talking. Black men that were in those streets doing. The same is true for the civil rights movement. They were facing the dogs, facing the batons, facing the fire hoses. And you have the nerve, the audacity to say that Black men as a collective did nothing to fight white supremacy. These Black men right here, the Black Panther Party, they stood up to the police. They stood their ground. When the police fired at them, they fired at the police. Many of the Black Panthers are in jail today because they were willing to sacrifice everything. Brothers like Fred Hampton gunned down in the middle of the night. A man who knew that he was going to die for the people. He said he wasn't going to die in no accident or in an airplane. He was going to die for the people because he loves the people. But yet you have these ingrates talking about the Black man has done nothing. All these Black male leaders in the Black Panther Party gave their lives for Black people, gave their freedom for Black people. But yet you have a woman that's on YouTube just running her mouth who hasn't done a damn thing other than talk for Black people, having the nerve to dismiss these brothers who sacrificed everything, sacrificed their lives. You know, whether we're talking about little Bobby Hutton, a teenager, gunned down by those pigs, by the police, a teenager that had the heart to stand up to the police. You have people like, all these leaders in the Black Panther Party killed, a lot of them killed and arrested and put in jail. Many of them still serving time today. Many of them are still political prisoners today, but yet you have a woman talking about how Black people, Black men as a collective have done nothing to fight against white supremacy. Open a history book, read Huey P. Newton's Revolutionary Suicide, read Bobby Seale's Seize the Time, and you will see examples of Black men standing up to white supremacy. As a collective, thousands of Black men are not just some individuals. That's a collective. And we have to understand that history is made by a vanguard. Often there's a vanguard that's at the forefront, that is the tip of the spear. Often movements aren't led by the entire mass of the people. It's the courageous few that make an example. It's the courageous few that make a difference. If you look at revolutions that have taken place, it was a vanguard that sparked those revolutions around the world. And the Black Panther Party represented such a vanguard, and the Black man was at the forefront of that vanguard. So let's not talk about how the Black man is doing nothing. We look at the Nation of Islam today. We see Black men standing up, Black men righteous and upright, Black men living a clean lifestyle, not using drugs, not abusing women, committing to marriage and family, building institutions in their community, building schools, building businesses, building mosques, just building, being an example of what manhood should be about. A collective. An organization of thousands of black men. You can't dismiss that as some individual action when you have thousands of black men who are part of the Nation of Islam and thousands who are inspired by the Nation of Islam. This man inspired 1 million black men to come to Washington, D.C. to stand up for their community. That can't be dismissed. That can't be brushed aside. And then if you look at the movement today for Black Lives, the Black Lives Matter movement. Of course, there are women that are active in that movement. Women created Black Lives Matter, but you also have black men that are at the forefront of the Black Lives Matter movement. Black men such as this brother, DeRay McKesson, I think that's his last name. And then you had a brother, Sean King. And I know some people question his blackness, but the brother is black. So you had those black men, and then you had these black men in Ferguson, you know, black men such as this brother, Darian Sills, who passed away under suspicious circumstances. A black man who stood up against police brutality. And this brother right here, another brother who died under suspicious circumstances, another Ferguson activist. And I could go on, but I won't. I think I've made my point. The fact of the matter is, throughout history, you've had black men who have stood up for our community, black men who have fought against white supremacy. But yet and still, you have this woman who has the nerve to talk about black men not doing anything as a collective. And I just think that that's just a reflection of her own hatred of black men. It's not a reflection of actual facts. So let me go through your comments before I go on to the next point. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. You know, Angel had a great hangout, you know, as usual. You know, he puts together these excellent discussions, you know, brought together great people, great minds, great thinkers. But yeah, I just had to speak on that issue about black men not fighting against white supremacy, because it's ridiculous. You know, it's just outright wrong. It's outright false. And, you know, the language isn't going to empower anybody. All it's going to do is emasculate people. You don't inspire men to be strong and courageous by emasculating them, by basically neutering them and, you know, cutting off their genitalia figuratively. You don't do it like that. You know, that's not how you motivate people. So I had to get that out of my system, man, because I just get sick of hearing these lies, man. So let me go through your comments. Now, Coco Ness Fox said Cynthia G's not talking about all black men. No, I didn't say that she was talking about all black men. That's not the point that I made. She was talking about black men as a collective not doing anything. And I pointed out how black men, anytime you have all these thousands upon thousands of black men doing something, that's a collective. So the woman is wrong. And to use that, throw out that disclaimer, she's not talking about all black men. That's just BS, to be blunt, you know, because that's an escape hatch, you know, that people often use when they bash somebody. You will hear somebody like a Tommy Sotomayor go out of his way to bash black women and then throw in that little caveat, you know, I'm not talking about all black women. That's BS. And that's an excuse that people use to bash black men or black women, you know, so I'm not going for that. You know, she was talking about black men as a collective. She was talking about the majority of black men. That's what she was talking about. Saying that the majority of black men did nothing and this and that. I reject that. And I think that, you know, it's just unfortunate that somebody with that such a large audience promotes such negativity and hatred, man. That woman is literally animated by hatred. That's her motivation, hatred. I don't hear any love from her. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I've watched enough of her videos to know that this woman is motivated by hatred. You know, hatred for white people, hatred for the black man. And in fact, I think she probably hates the black man more than she hates white people, man. She probably hates the black man more than she hates white people. Because it's always dusty beta males this, dusty beta males that. And the sad thing is that a woman that has so much hatred for black men has actually benefited from black men. It's black men that helped put this woman on. If it wasn't for Boyce Watkins, most of us wouldn't even know who Cynthia G is. Boyce Watkins gave her a platform, gave her access to tens of thousands of people by putting her on his platform, helping her build an audience. And this is how she returns the favor, by talking about how black men as a collective are doing nothing. And even Tariq Nasheed helped her build her audience by her going on his program, you know, calling into his program. She was able to build an audience. But this is the woman that wants to talk about black men as a collective doing nothing. I mean, it's just outrageous, you know. And it's sad, man. Really, at the end of the day, it's sad, man, that somebody would have such hatred in their heart for black men, even though black men are the one that helped them get on, helped them get an audience. And even though it's black men who are subscribed to her channel. And frankly, I mean, I understand why people may be subscribed to her channel. I'm subscribed to her channel just for information's sake. You know, I subscribe to people for different reasons. You know, some people I subscribe to them because I support their message. Some people I'm subscribed to them so that I can keep a pulse on what's going on in Black YouTube. Some people I'm subscribed to them because I'm interested in hearing opposing viewpoints. I'm the one that doesn't just like to hear points that I agree with. I like to hear opposing points of view because all that does is challenge me. It helps me sharpen my own views and even question my own views. So she has a lot of black male subscribers, but yet she basically craps on them by talking about how, as a collective, black men are not doing anything. And I can't understand how any rational black man would be a supporter of hers, given the fact that she constantly bashes black men. And I know that, like, a lot of these guys may think, well, I'm the exception to the rule. She's not talking about me. But the fact of the matter is, she's speaking in generality. She's making generalizations. And that's the problem with generalizations. They always fall when confronted by logic. All right, so let me move on to some of the other points. So Def Rocker said, you know, that something about how it always becomes a shouting match when you have these hangouts and stuff like that. Sometimes it does become that, but I think that Angel did a good job of moderating his panel. He was able to, you know, manage the panelists, even when you got strong personalities like a Cynthia G, you know, somebody that's all outspoken. And basically, Cynthia G essentially threatened to get off the hangout if Angel just kept her on pause for too long. And and he did a good job of balancing things. Like, he was firm with her, but he was also you know, politically correct with her or whatever. He, you know, catered to her to some degree to keep her on or whatever. But I think overall he did a great job with it. And I think that it is great to have those kind of panel discussions. And that's one of the things that makes his discussion stand out. You do have conflict on his panels. And that's great. I mean, for entertainment value is great. And just for the intellectual discussion is great. Because anytime you have a panel where everybody agrees on everything, that can be very boring. So, you know, so shout out to Angel again for that panel discussion. And okay, and Coco Ness Fox says no one should be submitting to anyone. Like ZaZa said, you're not an animal. Yeah, and that's kind of like what she was saying. She was talking about how basically, that kind of language is like, in a lot of ways you can compare it to like a dog master type of relationship or animal person type of relationship. Um, you can compare it to that. Hold on one second, John. Okay. Yeah, you can kind of compare it to that, but I'm going to get into that in a second. I want to talk about my views about submission and this and that. So I'm going to talk about that in 1 second after I go through everyone's comments. And B, Intellectual Williams said, if you're being a side chick, you're submitting. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that because you are you are submitting in one way or another when you are in that kind of relationship. Water Sniper says that that lady is full of crap, and yeah, I mean, I tend to agree, man. I mean, she makes some valid points, about racism and this and that, but overall, I can agree with that assessment, man. I mean, I can agree with it, and I actually did a video entitled "That Sister's Full of Crap," and that was about another point. Um, but I'm not going to go too far off into that. But I agree with your sentiment, and I'm going to stay off the negative comments about her. I see y'all in the comment section, and I feel you to a degree. So Coco Ness Fox said, we don't know what our ancestors did to protect Black women being raped during slavery because they are no longer here to tell us. I'm sure Black men did something. Yeah, I provided examples of Black men doing something. All those slave rebellions were Black men doing something. Those were Black men doing something. And, so I think that while I understand your point, those slave rebellions are documented in history. So we do know, at least in those cases, what Black men did to protect Black women. And I agree. I agree with Nagon 11. ZaZa basically did shut Cynthia G down. But Cynthia G, like, I think that she was so adamant in her position, like she was so closed-minded that she really couldn't embrace what anybody was saying. I mean, everybody presented actual facts rebutting her points, but yet somehow she thought that she was still on point, that somehow her points weren't disproven. And I like the point that ZaZa Ali talked about when she was talking about self-accountability and love, like how we have to be accountable for ourselves, Black men and Black women. And I think that that's key to, dealing with these relationship issues, because too often what we want to do is point the finger, as the sister ZaZa Ali was pointing out. We want to blame people, we want to lash out and stuff like that, instead of dealing with our own problems, with our own particular issues. Instead of doing self-evaluation and self-reflection, we want to point out, the faults with what the other person is doing wrong or what the other gender is doing wrong, instead of looking at ourselves, looking at the man or the woman in the mirror. And I think that that's a very valid point. And also, like, I think that Garfield made a great point about, like, when he was talking about individual versus collective solutions. And basically, he was talking about, like, how on an individual level, we need to do our part. We basically need to be the man that we want to see in our community. If we want to see builders in our community, then we have to become the builders. If we want to see men providing and protecting their families and their women and their communities, we need to be the ones to do that, instead of waiting around for some messiah to save us Instead of waiting around for someone to rescue us, we need to be our own saviors in our own communities, in our own families, in our own neighborhoods. That's what we have to do. All right, so I'm going to go through these comments, and then I'm going to go back to some of the points that were raised during that Google Hangout. And I just want to know in general, for those of you who saw the Hangout, what did y'all think about it? And Water Sniper said, many revolts, many white guys were killed by black men during those times. Many plantations were destroyed. Exactly. So I see that Coon Fox is saying that, excuse me, Coco, excuse me, that was a mistake. Coco Ness Fox said that a lot of black men follow Cynthia G. Yes, they do. A lot of black men follow her. I mean, a lot of them are subscribed to her. I think that a lot of the black men are subscribed to her, but they're not necessarily followers of her. But you do have a significant number of black men that follow her, which I don't understand, man. I don't understand why any black man would, like, I understand why somebody would be subscribed to her, but I don't understand why any black man would be a strong supporter of hers when she constantly bashes black men as a collective. And Coco Ness Fox said that Cynthia G is passionate, not angry. You know, I disagree. I mean, she's passionate and angry. That's what I'll say. I mean, her tone is angry. And that can't be denied. I mean, the woman speaks from anger. This woman speaks from rage. This woman obviously is angry towards black men. That's obvious from anybody watching her videos can see that. Anytime you got a woman referring to her father as a sperm donor, anytime you got a woman constantly calling men beta male coons and constantly talking about how black men have done nothing to earn respect from black women, that sounds like anger to me. That's not passion. That's anger, especially given the tone that she makes about, the tone that she uses when she's speaking about black men. That sounds like hatred to me. I mean, it can't be anything else but that. All right. I don't want to make this hangout too long, but I am going to try to go through all the points that I saw, some of the key points that were raised in this hangout that Angel did. And then Nagon 11 said, history tells us the truth right up to the Civil War with over 200,000 black men fighting. I wish I was on that one. Yeah, there were black soldiers who were there were black soldiers fighting in the Civil War, fighting in the wars for black freedom. That's what they were fighting for. Gave their lives, put themselves at risk for their people. Another example of black men sacrificing and fighting for black women and black people. And Def Rocker said Cynthia G was acting like those MGTOW dudes. Yeah, in a lot of ways you can compare them. I mean, like the hatred that some of those guys have towards black women. In some ways, you could say Cynthia G has similar type of hatred towards black men. Now, Coco Ness said, if you're putting down Cynthia G, then you're contradicting your own statement about being motivated by love. I mean, being motivated by love, I'm talking about for your people, for the collective of black people. I'm not putting down this woman. I'm simply disagreeing with her position. I'm simply stating facts about her position. I'm not using any kind of personal insults at this point against this woman. I'm talking about her position. I'm attacking her position. I'm not attacking her as an individual. I'm attacking the hatred that she espouses. I'm attacking the fact that she's wrong when she says that black men as a collective have done nothing to fight against white supremacy. I provided actual facts to prove her wrong. So Coco Ness Fox said, "Well, tell us what will empower Black men." And I'll get to that in a second. I mean, I want to talk about the solutions that some of the people proposed in Angel's Google Hangout. But I wish, one thing that I'll say about that, like often the way his discussions go around this issue is they start off with a statement of the problem, and you need to have a statement of the problem in order to have an assessment of how to solve that problem. But I think that, most of these discussions, they center around the problem, and then you leave like a couple of minutes at the end to talk about solutions. And I think that solutions should be the entire focus of these hangouts. I think that, but that's less I'm sure that that's less entertaining for people. But I think that the hangout discussion should be centered around solutions rather than, emphasizing the problem over the solution. And, just to touch on some of the solutions, I'll just touch on some of the solutions. And I think that Sonetta raised a great point, talking about how we need to get back to the real teachers. He talked about how there are plenty of people who have offered solutions to our problems. And there's no like magical solution. There's nothing that I'm going to say on this hangout right now that's going to magically solve all the problems that Black people have faced for hundreds of years. No, anybody that's presenting anything like that is a charlatan. There's no presto magical solution to our problems that's going to solve everything overnight. Our struggle has been a protracted struggle, a struggle that has taken place over centuries and decades. So there is no magical solution to Black empowerment, but you do have blueprints toward a solution. Sonetta talked about Elijah Muhammad, some of the things that Elijah Muhammad was talking about, Black men and Black people doing for self. He talked about that. I mean, Elijah Muhammad has a book that he wrote like way back in the day called Message to the Black Man. And then Sonetta also pointed out a book that Amos Wilson had, like I think it's called Blueprint for Black Power or something to that effect. You have a Malcolm X. You have all these great Black leaders. And he cited, what's the sister's name? Sister from ISIS, that wrote ISIS papers, Frances Quetz Welsing. He cited her as an example of things that Black people can do to create solutions for these relationship issues and for Black political empowerment. So I think that we do need to go back to the sources, as Sonetta said. I mean, there are plenty of examples of people trying to create solutions. But the question is whether or not we will follow those examples or improve upon them instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. When you have all these other great thinkers who have already thought and reflected on these issues and have already proposed ideas that are solutions to the problem. So I think that Sonetta hit the nail right on the head when he's talked about that. There's no need for some fly-by-night cat on YouTube to come up with some solutions when you got these great leaders in our history that have already put forth solutions to these problems, put forth ideas that would lead us toward some kind of resolution of some of these issues we face as a people. Okay, so Nagon11 says Spook Who Sat by the Door was a masterpiece and is never played on TV today. Yeah, I didn't see it on TV. Like somebody told me about it way back in the day, like, when I was in college, that's when I first saw it. And it's available here on YouTube. You can watch it for free on YouTube. So, I encourage y'all to check it out if you haven't seen it. A profound film, about Black people using knowledge from the oppressor to fight for liberation. And, I think it's a very inspiring film, not in terms of inspiring people to take up arms, but the larger message of using skills that you have acquired for the benefit of the community and for Black people. Yeah, so Water Sniper says she has no positive, uplifting type of message. And that brings me to a question that Sonetta asked, and I'm going to get to that submission issue, but I just have to talk about things as they come to mind. But Sonetta basically asked the women on the panel if they have a man. And they were quiet. It was quiet for a second. It was very quiet. And I don't even think Cynthia G answered the question, if I recall correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think she answered it. And I think that she like raised a stink about him asking that question, saying basically, how does that affect the validity of the points that are being raised and this and that. And that's a valid point. Like, even if somebody is not in a relationship, they can still like physically talk about relationships. They can speak on relationships. Obviously, anybody can talk about anything. But I think that somebody has more authority when they speak on relationship if they are actually in a relationship. I think that somebody has more authority to talk about relationships if they have a healthy long-term relationship, if they are in a marriage. I think that somebody who is actually in a marriage, who has a successful, loving relationship, I think that they speak with more authority about relationships because they're speaking not theoretically, they're speaking from experience. And so I think that that was an interesting question that the brother Sonetta raised. And I think it was a question that was worthy of being answered. Because how can somebody really take someone seriously if they're not in a relationship? Like, in terms of somebody giving relationship advice and this and that, you can't. It's hard to take them really seriously. If they're not in some long-term relationship or they haven't been in one, they haven't been married or something like that. How can you even listen to them talk about marriage if they haven't been married? If they haven't even seen a living example of a healthy relationship? If they weren't raised in a situation where they know about what a happy marriage looks like. And even for someone that wasn't raised in that situation, they can still create a healthy relationship, a healthy marriage and stuff like that. I would take their word more seriously, somebody that's in a relationship, a loving, long-term relationship, a marriage, than I would take the word of somebody that hasn't been in a happy relationship in a long time. So I think that his question was valid. And I think that it goes to the core of like some of the questions he raised. Okay, so just bear with me. So someone said, Cynthia GB's money is ignorant to real life grassroots organization doing work while she's stuck on YouTube. Man, that is a great point, man. That's an excellent point because, as people are talking on YouTube about Black men not doing nothing, you have organizations every day that are trying to make a difference. Every day you have plenty of organizations, plenty of civil rights organizations, plenty of groups like Black Lives Matter, and like groups like here in Baltimore, leaders of the beautiful struggle here in Baltimore. Groups like Ceasefire here in Baltimore, making a difference in the Black community. People act like nothing is going on in the community. They're acting like there are no efforts to organize. These people who speak like this are people who are not engaged in struggle, people who are not involved in struggle at all on any level besides talking on YouTube. I mean, I wish these people who are so popular would do videos talking about organizing that they're doing in the community. I wish that they would be organizing anything besides hangouts and besides speaking engagements. I don't hear about these people organizing any protests or, encouraging people to do petitions and this and that to make a difference, or encouraging people to lobby their members of Congress to pass any kind of laws or any of that stuff. I don't hear about these people doing that. None of them. I don't hear about a Tariq Nasheed doing anything like that. I don't hear about a, Boyce Watkins doing anything like that, or even a Cynthia G. And I think that we need to be engaged in our communities and be a part of organizations. And someone had questioned, my involvement, because I made these criticisms of people. Well, I'll just say this. All of my adult life, I have been a part of organizations fighting for Black people. All of my adult life. Right now I'm a civil rights attorney working with a civil rights organization. For the past 14 something years, I've been doing that. And when I was in college, I was a part of organizations fighting for Black people. Organizations fighting against police brutality. Organizations fighting against racism. Organizations fighting against Zionism and the oppression of the Palestinian people. In college, and even when I left college, I continued to be involved in our community. As a law student, I was involved. As a student, I participated in demonstrations. I risked going to jail as a student when we took over the administration building at Howard University. When we were marching in the streets against the situation involving a police brutality case, facing the police, facing potential arrests. When we, in law school, when we took over the law school building to protest against statements that the president of the university made against affirmative action. So don't talk to me about organization and being involved in our community. So let's continue on with your comments. Oh man, Be Intellectual said Cynthia G should join forces with Crystalline Cares and embrace the power of the white man. I mean, in a lot of ways, that's a valid point, man. I mean, unfortunately, that's what it is because, basically that's what it is. I mean, these people that speak out against white supremacy so harshly, a lot of these people idolize the white man. They view this white man as some kind of all-powerful God and Black men as some kind of weaklings under this white man's thumb. Nothing but praise for how the white man is controlling this and controlling that and dominating the Black man. This woman talked about how the Black man is submissive to the white man. So how can a Black woman submit to a Black man? I mean, constantly putting this white man on a pedestal, whether she's doing it reluctantly or not. See, the only difference is, a Crystalline Cares and does it from a different type of angle. She's like more like saying it in a loving way, like she loves this and idolizes this white man, but a Cynthia G, like she's expressing her hostility toward white supremacy, but at the same time, she's praising this white man for being powerful, for being a builder, for being the one in control of this and that. Basically giving this white man a godlike status and godlike control over Black people's lives when he doesn't even have that kind of power when we realize our own power as a people. As that rapper Prodigy said, he said, real power is people, man. As soon as we realize that we have the power, we can seize power. We can take control over our environments. We have Black communities, Black cities that we can control, that we have the power to shape our own destiny in, if we just harness that power. But that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother video. But that was a funny point that you made. Just bear with me, I'm going through your comments. Yeah, I mean, and there are examples of Black men that are doing courageous things all the time, man. But somehow these Black men don't get emphasized. You have examples of Black men protecting women all the time, but somehow those Black men don't get the kind of attention that they should get. And I plan to highlight more of those Black male heroes and Black women heroes as well on my other New Possibilities channel. I plan to post content over there soon. Um, I may be able to do a couple of videos today. I plan on doing some videos about some Black men who've done courageous things, whether we're talking about that Black man that saved lives at Waffle House, whether we're talking about the brother who saved that infant child in France, you know, who scaled a building to save a child. And, you know, some people made a big deal about the child being white, but the child's a human being. And that brother sacrificed his, you know, his safety. He put his safety on the line to save a fellow human being. And that should be commended. You know, that's an example of a man being courageous and being strong and being brave. And then you had an example here in Maryland where this brother sacrificed himself to save somebody during the floods in Ellicott City. So you have examples every day of Black men being courageous, of Black men being protectors, of Black men being providers. But if someone is steeped in hatred, they won't acknowledge those examples. They will ignore those examples. They will pretend like they didn't see those examples. Now, Ali Emmett said that I don't believe she's here to empower Black people or to combat white imperialism. She's only here to fuel the fire. And I think that that's a valid point. I really do. Because if you're not offering anything, like if you're not really trying to do any kind of organizing or anything like that, and all you're doing is lashing out at people, that's not creating any kind of real situation to empower Black people or to combat imperialism. I mean, all it is a form of entertainment. And unfortunately, entertainment has substituted real activism. And that's sad. It's real sad, man. And it's just, and I just wish that, I mean, I like how that brother, Garfield, I think he was the only one on that panel that really confronted, I mean, the only man on that panel, the only man that really stood up to Cynthia G. He's the only one on that panel that did that. And, you know, I noticed that in ZaZa's video, like in the comment section, people, well, again, I watched Angel's Hangout on ZaZa Ali's channel, and I was looking at the comments, and I saw that somebody said that the men on that panel are simps. And that's funny. You know, to me, that was a funny comment. I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't agree with those that all of those guys are simps or anything like that. But I understand why that person said that, because Garfield was the only person that challenged Cynthia G. The only one on that panel that really challenged her. You know, there's a man. I mean, of course, ZaZa Ali challenged her, and the sister Akua challenged her as well to some extent. But the brother Garfield was the only man that challenged her. And I can understand why Angel wouldn't challenge her. He's the moderator. He's not supposed to challenge the panelists. He's just supposed to facilitate the discussion. But Garfield was the only one that challenged her. You had, you know, people like Sonetta saying that everybody's making great points. You know, the politician answer. You know, you had Boyce Watkins saying, well, your truth and my truth, everybody has their own truth. No, there's the truth and there's falsehood, man. And I just think that that's a wishy-washy, weak type of position to take, talking about your truth and my truth. No, one somebody's right and somebody's wrong. And you got to be in people's face and tell them when they're wrong, man. Instead, you got wishy-washy Boyce Watkins, and you got Sonetta. You know, even though Sonetta came out strong with that submission piece, which I'm going to get to in a second, he was wishy-washy in terms of how he dealt with Cynthia G. And, you know, the whole issue that everybody's point is valid, everybody's point is not valid, man. I mean, the bottom line is some people are making good points and some people are making false points or exaggerations, man. Everybody cannot be valid when they have opposing viewpoints. I mean, they can make some, some elements could be valid, but overall, two opposing viewpoints can't both be right and correct and true. Somebody's right and somebody's wrong. So let me continue on. Yeah, so Nagon brought up the Haitian Revolution. As an example of black men standing up against slavery. Just bear with me a second. Yeah, intellectual said being on Angel's platform, you have to kiss ass. Never debate on his platform. This is what this guy, brother B Intellectual Williams, is saying. Never debate on his platform. It's gender bias for bucks. That's what his opinion about it. I will say this. I mean, he lays out these rules, I guess, for people and how to address things. And I guess that's the way he's able to get, these different people on his panel, like to get these people to agree to come to his platform. There have to be certain rules and regulations. So I understand that to a degree. But, I don't think that it should be done, that a panel should be moderated in such a way where, the truth doesn't get out, and then, moderated in such a way that people have to play nice to such a degree that the truth doesn't come out and that you don't have an engaging and intellectual discussion. But I don't think that was the case here. I think that they were still able to have a full discussion on the merits of these issues. So I don't think that anything was hampered. I do think to some degree, I mean, this woman was coddled and protected and all that kind of stuff to a degree. I mean, to an extent. I mean, to some degree, but she did push back against him as well, because he was trying to basically organize the discussion in a way where she wasn't like constantly being the one that's the center of attention. And I think that that's a good thing. So I think that overall, Angel did a great job of moderating. He did a great job of getting these people on his platform, these prominent YouTubers. So he has to be commended for that. But I do understand your point, being intellectual about, placating people too much instead of like just calling them out on their crap, So I feel you on that. And Confidence basically said she was spewing hatred. The other two women were very balanced, and that's true. They were very balanced. I agree with that, especially ZaZa Ali. I mean, ZaZa Ali really sounds like she is wife material. I mean, not only is she beautiful, but she seems to have a great positive spirit about her, man. Great energy about her, man. And I like her points about, love and God consciousness. I think that was a powerful point, like about how we got to be motivated by love. And she talked about how her focus is God consciousness. And I think that is something that the so-called conscious community is missing. These people are godless often. I mean, a lot of these people are either atheists or they're worshiping some not white woman. The black woman is God type syndrome, So they're off when it comes to, being God centered. You know what I'm saying? In terms of, having spiritual type of values and stuff like that. And, in terms of morality, man, instead of having a moral focus, a God consciousness, a lot of these people are self-centered and narcissistic. And some of them have a lot of negative energy. And I think that, Cynthia G, unfortunately, is an example of that. This woman constantly bashes religion, constantly bashes anybody that believes in, the major religions or whatever. And I don't think that that's out of the spirit of love, man, especially when you realize that most of your people are Christians, a large segment of your people are Muslims, a large segment of your people are Hebrews. You can't attack religion. We are religious people. Black people are religious people. Black people come from a spiritual people, a people who believe in God. Whether we're talking about traditional African religions or we're talking about Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, African people are centered in God, in religion and in the belief in a higher power. And when people bash religion and attack, people who believe, they're undercutting their own community. They're dividing up their own community. And that's something that Brother Malcolm X warned us about years ago when he talked about the need to unite around common issues. When he talked about how you should keep your religion between yourself and your God, man. When he talked about how they don't beat you up or lynch you because you're a Muslim or a Christian or, of some other faith. They do it because you're Black. And it's time for us to realize that we face a common enemy and we have common problems, and stop attacking people over religion. That's what we need to do. And unfortunately, the new pro-Black is bashing people who are people of faith. And I think that that's counterproductive and negative. And I think that the loss of a moral compass is part of the reason why our communities are in such disarray. That has to be a part of any discussion when you talk about solutions. When you see the erosion of traditional marriage in the Black community, when you see the erosion of the nuclear family in the Black community, you can tie that to the lack of a spiritual base in the Black community. When you see the out of wedlock births and these different problems that plague our community, the lack of a strong Black male leader in the household or in their children's lives, all of that goes back to a lack of a moral compass. That is part of the problem. So you can't even talk about solutions if you can't talk about the lack of a moral compass and the lack of God consciousness in our community. When you look at the killings that take places in places like Chicago or Baltimore, other urban areas, you have to talk about that spiritual piece. You have to talk about the moral compass in our community. You have to address that. Yes, you have to address issues of poverty. Yes, you have to address issues of racism and white supremacy, but you also have to address the issue of spiritual guidance in our community and the lack of it. You have to address the lack of God consciousness in our community. All right, so let me just finish going through these comments. And I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate your support. Just bear with me. There'll be moments of silence as I go through these comments here. And for those of you who want the sources to the things that I showed when I share my screen, I'll post those in the description box once I get a chance to, once I'm finished with this live stream. Okay, so Sparkles 1260 said Black men were great in the 50s and 60s. They were leaders. They are not great now, and we all know it. She said they are not great now, and we all know it. Wow. Wow. They are not great now, and we know it. You could say some Black men are not great now, but there are plenty of great men that exist right now. Great men that are part of organizations, great Black men that are mentors in their community, that are a part of community organizations, that are a part of organizations that are making a difference. There are Black men who are building businesses in their communities. I know plenty of black men who have their own law firms. Plenty of black men that are doing things for their community. Black business owners, black lawyers, black professors, black scholars making a difference in their community. Black activists. I know plenty of black politicians, like the brother I interviewed the other day on one of my Google Hangouts, the brother Francis Johnson, who's running for Congress in Georgia. The brother won his primary. That brother is going to go to Congress and make a difference if he's elected, if he wins the general election. He won his primary, and hopefully he'll win the general election. I know other brothers that are running for office, who have ran for office, that are trying to make a difference in the community. There are plenty of great black men today. I work with great black men every day. So don't tell me that there are no great black men now. That's wrong. Of course, you have weak black men that aren't building, and black men that aren't doing this and aren't doing that are doing wrong. But you also have great black men too, great black male leaders in our community. All you have to do is look up the organizations today that are fighting against police brutality, all kinds of political organizations, and you will see black men that are great, doing great things. You look at the business community, you'll see great black men doing great things, CEOs of corporations, black men building their own institutions. And I think I want to emphasize that on my other New Possibilities channel. When I get a chance, I'll post the link in the description box to that channel so you all can subscribe to that channel as well. That channel is going to be dedicated to positive examples of not only black men, but black women, black leaders in the black community doing different things, and not just leaders of organizations, but leaders of industry, leaders in science, leaders in sports and entertainment, people who have accomplished great things. That's what the channel, my other New Possibilities channel, is going to be about. It's going to be about actualized new possibilities for black people. So Coco Ness Fox said, black women have the ability to be strong. Harriet Tubman was strong, not submissive. You can't handle that. No one is against black men. And she says that's asinine. Some people are against black men, and I cited examples before, but yeah, there are strong black women, and there's nothing wrong with somebody being strong. But I think that too often, you know, too often some women want to be the man. They want to be a little man basically, and they want to run things and dictate things, and they want to be bossy and stuff like that, and take control over situations and stuff like that. And some of these women are emasculated, man. Some of these women are not just strong, they are masculine. They don't know what it means to be a lady, what it means to be a woman. Instead, they want to be a virtual man. And there's nothing appealing about that kind of attitude. There's nothing sexy about that kind of attitude. And now I want to go ahead and just get into this submission piece before I go through more of the comments. So Sarnetta brought up this issue about whether or not black women should submit to black men. He talked about how a black woman will get a good black man, a black man is providing and protecting and doing this and that. But once they get this good black man, they don't want to listen to this good black man. They don't want to respect this good black man. They don't want to follow this good black man's lead. They don't want to listen to him. They don't want to submit to him. And as I said before, that word submission triggered a reaction from people, and none of the reaction was good. None of the sisters were good with that. And even the commentary that I heard from Olivia R. was hostile towards the idea of women submitting to a man. And this is what I'll say about this, man. I don't think that women should submit in the terms of like how a dog submits to his master, or how slaves submit to their master. I don't think that women should submit like that and just be weak and, listen to everything that a man says, jump, when he says jump and, ask how high or any of that kind of stuff. I don't believe in that kind of submission. I don't believe in a man oppressing a woman, demeaning a woman, disrespecting a woman, or any of that kind of stuff. I don't support that. I don't support that idea of submission. But what I do believe in is that a man should be the leader of his household and a man should be the leader of his community. That's what I believe in. I believe that a marriage, a relationship should be a partnership. And it should be a partnership where decisions are made based on mutual consultation and mutual respect, where both parties respect each other. But I do think that a man should be the leader of the household. And I think that when a man has proven himself by making right decisions, by being a good example, by being a good leader, he will have a woman listen to what he has to say. When he offers sound advice on a regular basis, when he is somebody that can be trusted, when he's somebody that's honest, when he's somebody that's kind and loving, I think that it becomes natural for a woman to listen to him, to respect him, to follow his leadership. That doesn't mean that the man is always deciding every single decision that needs to be made. There are situations where a man is submitting to the wisdom of his woman, where she is offering sound advice and he acknowledges that sound advice and follows that sound advice. So that's what I think. I don't think that a woman should just be submissive like a slave or, bow down to a man or anything like that. But I just think that it comes natural for a woman to follow strong leadership. A woman has a natural inclination to gravitate toward a man who is strong, towards a man who is confident, towards a man that has means and ways of controlling his environment. That is a natural inclination that women have. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that too often, instead of wanting to be in a relationship and wanting to be in a partnership with a man, you have some women that want to compete with a man, that want to challenge a man, that want to chastise a man, and want to, emasculate a man. And that's problematic, man. You got some women that talk to men disrespectfully, and all that kind of stuff. And, real men don't want to tolerate that. And real men will not tolerate that. Real men will find a woman who will respect them, who will listen to them. And it should, like ZaZa Ali was saying, a man shouldn't have to be demanding that a woman submit to him or acknowledge his leadership or whatever. That should be something that is earned. I don't think that a woman should just submit to somebody because they are a man, because they have a penis or something like that. I mean, that's absurd. It should be about somebody earning that title of leadership, earning the right to be viewed as a king, not simply viewed as a king because they have melanin and they're a man. It should be about their character and how they treat other people and how they treat their families. And at the end of the day, it shouldn't be a dictatorship. A relationship should not be a dictatorship. It should be a partnership. And, decisions should be decided through consultation. A man shouldn't just make some hasty decision without consulting his wife and vice versa, or his woman. So, all right. So, yeah, so that's what I have to say about that submission thing. And I like what the sister ZaZa Ali was talking about when she said this, and I wrote it down. It was so important. I had to write this down. She said, "We are trying to speak life." She's raised a question. She said, "Are we trying to speak life into our men, or are we trying to emotionally and mentally castrate men?" When she was talking about Black women, are you trying to speak life into your men, or are you trying to emotionally and mentally castrate them? And that's what it comes down to. And I think a sister like ZaZa Ali is speaking life into men. You know, she is inspiring men and women. She is encouraging men, you know, building men up, inspiring men. That's what a woman should do, man. A man should be able to come to his woman, and I mean, his woman should be able to nurture him, not like a child, you know, like a mother nurtures a child or whatever, but she should be there to inspire him. You know, when a man is in doubt, he should be able to confide in his woman, you know, without her questioning his masculinity or his manhood. He should be able to speak to her honestly and have her encourage him and inspire him to live out his dreams, to fulfill his dreams, much like how Michelle Obama encouraged Barack Obama, or like Betty Shabazz encouraged Malcolm X, or Coretta Scott encouraged her husband, Martin Luther King. That's what a woman should be about, speaking life and inspiration into her man, being her man's cheerleader, not her man's detractor, not her man's hater, not her man's emasculator. And you know, that's something that I respect about this sister, ZaZa Ali. And I respect it in other sisters that I see here on YouTube, like Alicia For You, and even like the Radical Home Goddess. I mean, sisters that, you know, speak the truth on these issues dealing with gender, but they also speak from love, man. They also speak from inspiration, and they encourage Black men. But you have these other women who are all about emasculating Black men and disrespecting Black men, you know, constantly, you know, insulting Black men, you know, breaking them down, talking about how they're not doing this, not doing that. And prime examples of this include like people like, I mean, I've already mentioned, what's her name? Cynthia G. And you have others, you know, like a Chrissy or whatever, who's constantly talking about Black men not doing this, not doing that. And then you got this whole club of these Black men haters, these swirlers and others who their whole content is dedicated to bashing the Black man, even though they have supposedly moved on, even though they have supposedly um, uh, going on without the Black man and leaving Blackistan, but they can't stop talking about Blackistan. They can't stop talking about the Black man. So they focus on emasculating Black men, talking about how Black men are criminals, Black men are apes, Black men are animals, you know, and it goes on and on, man. So I appreciate a sister like ZaZa Ali, man. And she brought up a good point about how, you know, you got these people, these women who are criticizing the Black man, but they're not looking at the Black woman's role in this. They're not asking like who is raising these Black men that are so sorry that they complain about. Who's raising these quote unquote dusty beta males? Who's raising them, man? And often in a lot of these situations, it's a mother raising these dusty Black men that y'all call them beta males or whatever. You know, these men that are no good, blah, blah, blah. But that's the piece that a lot of these Black male bashers don't want to touch. And I'm about to close out. This has been rather long already, but let me just finish going through your comments before I do so. And Be Intellectual said this. He said, for Black men not to be great, most women don't have a problem still sleeping around with said Negroes. Shout out to the real Aaron Collins. So Water Sniper said, I'm glad that you, as older Black men, are here to give us knowledge about some of this past. That's why I mostly hang around older Black men with knowledge. Yeah, I guess I am an older Black man. I embrace my age, man. I'm blessed to be this age, man. Too many of our other brothers didn't make it this far. So age is a blessing. All right, let's see. All right, I'm gonna try to chill on Cynthia G for the rest of this. I think I said enough about her, so I'm not gonna respond to those comments dealing with her. And Big Game said people come on YouTube doing half as research so they can push together a historical narrative. Yeah, that's true. Ali Emmett said, she's laughing out loud. She said that New Possibilities is considered older. I think he's around Cynthia G's age. He just knows his stuff. No, I think I'm sure I'm older than Cynthia G, man. I'm not going to disclose my age, but I'm older than a lot of these people on here. So Water Sniper is correct. I'm an old man. Well, I'm not a senior citizen or nothing, but I am an older man in this Black YouTube. Um, but let's see. So I don't want to keep y'all too much long. I just want to get to the end of the comments. Wow, somebody said Nika J said that the men in the Nation of Islam are some of the worst men I've ever come across. Maybe it's just my city, but they're inconsistent, angry, and sexist. Wow. Wow, hold up. Did I miss something? Hold on, y'all. Just bear with me a second. Somehow I skipped all the way. Hold on, y'all. Just bear with me a second. Oh, there's a lot of comments here. I'm going to try to get through y'all comments before I close out. Just bear with me 1 second. Shout out to Doug, $5 donation. I appreciate it, man. All right, I must have skipped something. All right, somehow, let's see. Just bear with me a second, y'all. All right, so I'm just going to have to pick up where the comments are right now. Somehow I lost track. So I'm going to try to avoid the insults dealing with Cynthia G. I said enough about her. I think I made my point. So the real Aaron Collins says, wasn't Garfield that Jamaican cat? Yeah, that was him. That's Garfield on that panel. Yeah, High Roller said that, as Boyce said, it's going to take more time. We're barely out of slavery. And Willie Lynch. Yeah, I mean, there is no magical solution. And shout out to Voltron Black. That's one of my favorite YouTubers, Voltron Black, in the house. He said what she put out there is very dangerous to the growth and building of the Black community. and might as well join Successful Ladies Live. Exactly, man. Exactly. That was the point that we were talking about earlier. Might as well join Successful Ladies Live. And I'm trying to be on best behavior, y'all. I'm trying to be on good behavior right now, man. I'm trying to do right now. I would say some more about Successful Ladies, but I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna chill because I'm supposed to be being in a righteous frame of mind right now. So, but I had to speak on these issues that Cynthia G had raised. Like, it's not, I mean, in some ways, somebody could say some of the stuff that I'm saying is personal, but really, I'm more so attacking her position on issues than I am attacking her as an individual right now. All right. Yeah, so Lafayette the Great said, I'm going around a lot of black men and women, and I don't see a gender war in real life. And I think that that's a valid point. I don't really see it in real life either. I really don't. It's mainly something that exists here on YouTube. But if it's existing on YouTube, it has to have some kind of existence in real life. But I don't see it in my day-to-day interactions. I don't like encounter black men that are talking about how much they hate black women in real life. I mean, of course, there are black men that only date white women and, black women that do the same in real life. So it is an issue, but it's not as exaggerated as it is here on YouTube. Okay. So Brown Sugar Baby said, I'm a mentor to young black women. And then she said, you never hear Cynthia G in the community getting her hands dirty. Yeah, I don't hear it. I mean, maybe she does a lot of community work, but she just doesn't speak on it. But I don't hear her ever talk about it. And then Coco Ness Fox said Cynthia G is actually dating a black man. And I don't know anything about that, but that's cool if she is. But I wonder if she ever calls him out his name, calls him a dusty beta male or any of that other good stuff. The real Aaron Collins says, I only heard clips of the panel from G's live the other day, and it seems the Boyce was just rambling and running his mouth. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's how he does, man. Y'all know that's how he rolls, man. So y'all shouldn't be surprised by that. But he did make some good points on that panel, on that discussion. So Big Game says this. Cynthia started switching up once the YouTube demonetization hit. She knows that black women want a platform where they can bash black men without being considered bed wenches. She fills that void. Wow. All right, that's my last negative comment about Cynthia G. I'm going to try to see what other comments people have, but and Nate Gone 11 said the hangout was good. Yeah, that was a good hangout that Angel put together, man. It's one of the best hangouts I've seen in a while. And usually I can't make it past an hour watching anybody's hangout. You got to be super entertaining to have me watch a 2-hour hangout. I don't have that kind of time to spend watching anybody's hangout or even participating in my own hangout. Today is an exception. I got up pretty early, but I'm going to try to cut this short because I know that most people are not going to listen to anything that's over an hour. because I know I don't. But yeah, that was a good hangout. Again, shout out to Angel for that great hangout. Yeah, I'm gonna have to close this out soon. Okay. But I want to make it through these comments before I do so. So somebody brought up Candace Owens, and again, I'm going to eventually get to doing a video on my I Declare War channel about her. I'm going to really go in depth about her. You know, this person, Lafayette, said that Candace Owens is attractive. That's where her fame comes from. I don't think that that's why she's so famous right now. I think that it's just an environment where they love these Black conservatives. So anybody that's Black and this articulate, and they're talking this Black conservative mumbo jumbo, and some supporter of Trump, they're going to get a lot of media attention and a lot of focus because they get rewarded for tap dancing and cooning, basically. You see it here on YouTube. You have these Black conservatives with the American flag behind them. Overnight conservatives, people who spend most of their life being Democrats, and then overnight they become some conservative, and all of a sudden they got all these white fans and people following them and loving them and stuff like that because a lot of these white conservatives love a good coon show. That's why you have these people clamoring to the Diamonds and Silks of the world. And even that guy that gets on CNN who's constantly tap dancing for Donald Trump. They love that. Those people get attention. Those people get, support. Those people get notoriety. So hold on one second, y'all. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I want to go through your comments and then I'm going to close out. But again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Okay, hold on. Just bear with me as I go through your comments. So, Coco Ness Fox says Cynthia G only talks about beta males because they get up in her comment section being extremely disrespectful. All right, I'm going to try to avoid these personal issues dealing with her. And they gone basically said what I'm trying to say is, He said to critique a person is not hatred towards them. Cynthia G's statements can be critiqued, and that's exactly what I'm doing. All right, just bear with me. Going through the comments. Coco Ness Fox said 99% of black men have had sex with white women. I don't know where you getting those numbers from. You just pulled them out of thin air. Yeah, some of these comments are being held for review. And so if you don't immediately see your comment, just realize that that's what's going on. Lafayette the Great said there's more money in not having a solution. Nagard 11 said that Sonetta really wanted to go in much heavier, but he played it more politically correct. Yeah, he really did, man. And he set it off with that comment about submission. But he did play it politically correct, by not confronting Cynthia G the way he should have. Again, Garfield was the only one that did. Oh, so somebody said that Coco Ness Fox is a moderator in Cynthia's chat, so she's going to defend her to the death. Okay, that explains why she's going ham for it. Well, she's not going ham. She's she's really fiercely defending Cynthia G, and it's good to have support like that. But I think a real supporter would tell the person that they support where they're going wrong, and point out like how they're exaggerating things and making mistakes, and making irresponsible statements. That's what somebody would do if they really love somebody, if they really care for somebody, if they really respect somebody. So the real Aaron Collins said, where did Angel dig ZaZa Ali back up? Because he said that he was under the impression that she was no longer on YouTube. But she's been on YouTube. She's still on YouTube, and he's not the one that brought her back to YouTube. She's been on here for a while now. I've been subscribed to her for quite some time. So somebody said ZaZa Ali is suspect, though. I don't know about that. I like her, I respect her. And I know some people raise questions because of how things worked out with her and Professor Griff, and then some feud she had with, what's his name, Tariq Nasheed. And I think that the things that she raised about Tariq Nasheed were valid. So I don't view her as suspect or anything at all. And Water Sniper said if a person wants a positive solution, that person should not continue spewing their negativity towards the negative problem, more negativity pumping into the Black community. And that's a point that ZaZa Ali was basically talking about, how the law of attraction. And all you have to do is Google the law of attraction to understand like her point about how if you put out all this negative energy, you will get negative energy back. It doesn't bring anything positive. So yeah, I think that that's a good point. And somebody said the only reason people listen to ZaZa Ali is because she's attractive. No, that's not the only reason why. I mean, she is a very beautiful woman, no doubt, but that's not the only reason why people listen to her. It's the words that she's um, articulating, the words that come out of her mouth that draw an audience as well. Um, and I'm sure that she was, I mean, the way somebody looks does play a role in terms of what kind of audience they get. It does play a role, I'm sure. I'm sure that's the way somebody looks will initially draw somebody to listen to them, to listen to what they have to say. So I do think that that's a factor in somebody building the audience, but I don't think that that's the only reason why she's building the audience. She's building the audience based on her message. Just like Cynthia G is building her audience based on her message too, and some people may view her as attractive and watch her channel for that reason. Somebody said, okay, yeah, High Roller said ZaZa Ali is very positive. Yeah, she is positive. Like that's what I hear from her a lot of positive energy, and I like that, man. I like when people. And there's another sister that I'm subscribed to. Constance, who's very positive. She's like one of the most positive YouTubers that I've come across. On YouTube. One of the most positive YouTubers I have come across on this platform. A positive sister that always has inspiring words to say and stuff like that. Somebody that uplifts the human spirit, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what I like. I like to hear somebody that has something that's going to make, not only make you feel empowered and inspired, but somebody that's going to encourage you and motivate you. That's what I like to hear, man. And that's why one of the reasons why I can appreciate somebody like Constance and ZaZa Ali, people like that. Somebody said ZaZa looks like Sade. Yeah, she does resemble. I mean, well, she doesn't. There's some similarities. I can see somebody saying there's similarities between the two. All right. All right. So hold on one second, y'all. I'm just going through these comments. Big Game said you can tell. Well, I'm not going to read the rest of it. I'm not going to try. I'm trying to avoid these personal issues with her. But I think some of y'all are making some great points in the chat. I saw a Psycho in here somewhere. So the real Aaron Collins says he was a member of the New Black Panther Party for 7 years because he had a desire to help Black people. I also personally know the founders of the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. Yeah, I want to find out more about the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. One of those brothers that helped create the Huey P. Newton Gun Club was arrested. And he was later, they ended up dismissing the charges and stuff like that. And he's one of the first people prosecuted under this so-called Black Identity surveillance program, Black Identity extremist surveillance programs. Oh man, Big Game said he made a comment about crystalline kerosene. He said she's fine as hell, low key. She's the best looking black male basher. Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you on that, man. She is a very attractive woman. You know, I did a video about that. Like, I did some video where I was talking about black women with natural hair, uh, you know, interracially dating this and that. Yeah, she is a beautiful woman physically. You know, her personality is something else, a whole nother piece. Let's go on. Oh, shout out to Psycho. I know I saw you somewhere in there when I went scroll down by mistake. Shout out to you. All right, man. Okay. Yeah, and real Aaron Collins mentioned the black man that saved the child. Um, yeah, man, that's something that deserves more attention, man. You know, France decided to grant that brother citizenship status because of his heroic act. You know, so we really need to highlight those examples, man. Examples of black excellence, whether it's here in America or abroad, man. You know, those things need to have more attention. And his situation did receive a lot of attention, but you can't um, highlight it enough. You know, I think that those types of situations need more attention, and I plan to, you know, talk about more of that kind of stuff on my other New Possibilities channel, as I mentioned before. Brown Sugar Baby said, I love my black men. They are beat down so badly by the world, and now they're black women. This is truly sad. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's like somebody coming home from work, like after hard days of work, you know, getting abused by their boss at work, you know, getting talked to all crazy, and still managing to finish their workday, you know, still managing to put up with that crap so that they can have money to provide for their family. And then they come home and then their wife is bashing them and talking about how they ain't this and they ain't that. So it's like a double whammy, man. You know, and that's unfortunately what some of these women do, man. That's what they do. They pile on and they don't miss an opportunity to emasculate a black man. And people not only do this here on YouTube, but they do it in their relationships. And they wonder why their relationships don't succeed. And they wonder why these black men abandon them and leave them. Somebody's talking about, well, I'm not going to mention that. That's a whole side conversation. Somebody said Akua got kicked off when she was about to go in. She asked, why should you date black men? Then she got kicked off the live. And I think he's talking about, like he said, well, black men haven't done this and that. Yeah, I remember that part where she was basically saying, well, if black men haven't done this and haven't done that, then why should you even date black men? I think she was asking that of Cynthia G, if I recall correctly. But I don't remember her getting kicked off. I don't think she got kicked off. I think there were minutes or moments when, you know, the chat was where people were muted or whatever. And that's what you may be talking about. So somebody talked about how Angel supports Cynthia G. Yeah, I mean, obviously he supports her to some degree. I mean, if he's going to have her on his platform, I mean, yeah, I think he, you know, he does support her, you know, to some degree. I'm sure he doesn't agree with everything she says. I'm sure he doesn't agree with all his guests, obviously, you know. But I'm sure he supports her like a lot of people support her fight against white supremacy. A lot of people support that, but they don't support you know, some of the other baggage that comes along with her. Um, and I gotta give him credit for being, you know, a good moderator, man. Because like me, you know, I would it would be hard for me not to jump into that conversation where she's making all these critical statements about black men. Shout out. So Brown Sugar said, "We need each other. Let's build with each other. Nothing like black love." Exactly. Exactly. I feel that. Psycho said, "Facts. It bugs the crap out of me to see these people bow down to the madness she spews." Exactly. I mean, it bothers me, man. It's like, why is it that Garfield was the only man on that panel that challenged this woman, man? I mean, you had Boyce Watkins tap dancing, you know, tap dancing around it. If I had my camera on right now, y'all could see me tap dancing. But that's what he was doing, like tap dancing around the issues, man. I can't stand that, man. I like when people are direct, man, when people are straight up. Yeah, I don't think I would have made it on that discussion. I probably would have ended up getting muted. The way you know, Angel regulates his discussions, man, because I wouldn't have just sat back and let this woman spew that nonsense. And Joe said, Boyce didn't simp as much as I thought. Yeah, he I mean, he wasn't like straight up simping and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, he did challenge some of what she was saying, but he did it in a roundabout kind of way. He really did, man. Again, Garfield was the only one that really checked her. Yeah, that's a good point, Big Game. He did. He was throwing some subliminals, and again, that's that like that little tap dancing I'm talking about, man. Why do subliminals, man? I can't stand subliminals. People need to say what they mean and mean what they say. You feel me? Yeah, but I did see that. I was peeping that, man. I was like, he's taking subtle little shots, man. But he tried to do it in a roundabout way because he was like, he tried to bring in points about how his mom didn't treat him well and this and that to try to make it parallel to the situation with Cynthia G or whatever to take the sting off of what he was trying to say. And that was a smart little strategy. But me, I would be more upfront and more confrontational. Um, and more blunt. You know, I would be more blunt. And that's part of my problem. Like, you know, while it would be difficult, I mean, even though like I may have political aspirations, that would be one of the hurdles that I would have to overcome, man, being blunt and to the point, man. Because I'm not with tap dancing. I'm not with like putting garnishes on things. I just give it to you raw, man. And you can either take it or leave it. Um, the real Aaron Collins said Sonetta just wanted to promote his upcoming award show. Yeah, he did get his plug in there about that award show. He said, I want y'all to come out to my award show. And even if you're not nominated this year, you may be nominated next year. I mean, I can't hate on him, man. You know, he's trying to sell something. Um, and he saw an opportunity with that audience. And I can't hate on that, but I don't think that that was his primary motivation. Like he did talk about the issues at hand, but at the end, he made sure he got in that plug about his show. And Brown Sugar said, "Boys like to stay jumping the fence." Yeah, there's something to that. Oh, somebody said that after that hangout, Cynthia Fox, you know, Cynthia G had Cynthia. I mean, what's her name? Cynthia G had China Fox on her program, bashing Boyce Watkins. So again, you know, Cynthia G had a hangout. with China Fox, and China Fox was bashing Boyce Watkins, even though Boyce Watkins is the one that put Cynthia G on. Again, like I said before, many of us wouldn't even know who she is without a Boyce Watkins. And many people wouldn't know who she is because without her appearing on what's his name's thing, calling in to Tariq's show as well. So I'm sure she built her audience off those two black men. And it's just messed up that you would bash black men, and even though black men help build you, even though black men are your subscribers, as I said earlier. Okay, hold on 1 second. So somebody said, I have a question. Why can't anyone answer Cynthia's questions? Um, if y'all watch the beginning segment of this hangout, you will see that I answered her question about black men not protecting black women throughout history and not doing anything and blah, blah, blah. The thing is, she exaggerates. That's the thing. The thing is, she makes generalizations. The thing is, when people present examples, she glosses over them as if they presented nothing when they rebutted her arguments. And, so that's the thing, man. Her question was not profound. It was not a question that stumped anybody. You had people answer her question on that panel, but she decided to ignore those people. All right. Exactly, Psycho. Her questions are always answered. She tells people this crap and they believe her. Exactly. They believe that nobody answered her questions. I mean, come on, man. Everybody, a lot of those people answered her questions. Somebody said, Chrissy's about to get me for saying ZaZa Ali is attractive. That's funny, man. I mean, my whole thing is this, man. I mean, dark-skinned women are attractive. Light-skinned women are attractive. Brown-skinned women are attractive. Black women, period, are attractive. In this same hangout, I said this, what's her name? Crislin Karazin is attractive, man. So it's not no color thing or whatever. It's not no new possibilities having being a colorist or anything like that. So and don't get it messed up, man, for the people who maybe think of something like that. All right, so all right, yeah. So I see my comments are way behind my commentary. So I'm gonna jump to something. Psychopathia said, Psycho. I disagree. MP, the worst people I see online are believers. I don't know what believers you're talking about, man. I'm not sure which ones you're subscribed to. You may be talking about some of those Hebrews, those extremist Hebrews, or some other extremists or whatever. But the people I know that are believers are not bashing people and stuff like that. I mean, unlike somebody like a Cynthia G constantly bashing people of faith, or what's that guy, Robert Perkins, constantly bashing people that believe. I mean, it's like, why do people even care about what somebody personally believes in terms of their religion? Why is that even up for discussion? Why is that something that we're using to divide one another? I mean, why can't we just follow the example of Brother Malcolm X when he said, keep your religion between you and your God, and let's unite around our common issues that affect us? I mean, why can't we run with that? Why can't we build with that? You got these people who suggest that anybody of faith is an idiot, is a coon and all this and that, even though some of the greatest people in our history have been people of faith. So I'm not with that, man. I'm not with people bashing religion or even people bashing atheists and stuff like that, man. Again, keep your religion between yourself and your God, man. Let's unite around our blackness and around the issues black people face as a collective. All right. Yeah, I mean, some people, I see Brown Sugar's comment. Yeah, some people think that they win a debate by talking over people. That's not how you win a debate. I mean, some people that are into antics and stuff like that, they will buy into that. They will be like, "Oh, this person is, out talking this person and that person," instead of paying attention to the substance of what is being said. But talking over somebody is not how you win a debate. And despite how many times this woman kept saying nobody's answering her question and blah blah blah, her question had been answered. The brother Garfield rebutted her ridiculous point about black men doing nothing while the slave master was raping black women. All right, so I don't want this to be redundant, so I'm just going to keep going. Yeah, I didn't say that she was an atheist, Psycho. I'm not saying that Cynthia G is an atheist. I'm just saying that she bashes religion. She bashes Christians. She bashes Muslims. She bashes Hebrews. She bashes anybody that believes in any of the major religions. And that's a fact. I mean, you won't deny that, and that's one of the reasons why you've admitted that one of the things that you like about her, that she bashes these people of faith and stuff. Well, not that she bashes it, but that she challenges religion. That's what you like about what she does. At least that's one aspect that you like about Cynthia G's channel. And I didn't say she was an atheist. I just said that she bashes religion. Somebody said she believes in astrology and voodoo. And they got this laughing emoji. Oh man, that's funny. Astrology and voodoo. Um, yeah, I'm not going to even touch that. I'll leave that alone. I'll leave that alone, man. And Psycho's trying to disown her. He said she's practicing paganism. She's not an atheist. Y'all can't put her off on us. Oh man, I feel you. You try to disown her. Yeah, real Aaron Collins. I don't know all the drama that took place between ZaZa Ali and Professor Griff. I'm sure if you do a search here on YouTube, you'll come across the videos. Yeah, I mean that's something. That's a good point. Brown Sugar about like the attitude. Calling people dumb. Constantly calling people dumb. Having a hateful energy. I don't think that that's right, man. Questioning people's, the black community, saying the black community may have a learning disability, saying the black man has done nothing to earn respect. That sounds like hatred to me, man. How are you fighting white supremacy when you're reaffirming white supremacy by bashing your own people? How are you fighting white supremacy when you're constantly bashing your own? Elaine Lloyd said, shout out to Elaine Lloyd. I was raised by a single dad. He could have left, but he stayed because of God. It is important. Yeah, I think faith in God is important. And even for people that don't have faith in God, I think having a moral compass is very important as well. I mean, there's some people who may not believe in God, but they still have morals. They still have a value system, and I think that that's very important, man. I think that it's very important to have some kind of moral compass. And unfortunately, the lack of such a compass is part of the problems plaguing our community. If y'all could hold on for 1 second. All right, I'm back. I'm sorry about that. So Ali Emmett said, sorry, but if our people don't hear and obey the word of God, there will be no righteousness. It's happened time and time again. And Water Sniper says Cynthia G needs to change her approach if she truly wants to change. Um, Her approach is not doing black men any favors. Brown Sugar said, I stand behind my king and I build him up. That's my job. Our people need to build each other up. Exactly. Exactly. That's what our people need to do. Yeah, I like that kind of commentary, man. I think we need more people with that kind of perspective. We need to realize that we are dependent on each other. Anytime you have a situation of black men versus black women, the black community, the black nation loses. We don't win any kind of gender war. Nobody wins. We all lose as a collective community. All right, so bear with me a second. The real Aaron Collins says, I'm a great black man, not trying to toot my own horn, but I am. And somebody said, I'm beginning to think that religion hasn't done much for the race of black people, but I agree that moral compasses are way off these days. You know, I disagree with the idea that religion hasn't done much for the black community. There was a time when religion did a lot for the black community, when the church was a central institution in our community. You had um, more nuclear families. You had the church as a community base for organizing. Like when you look at the civil rights movement, a lot of the work that they did was through the churches and with the churches. A lot of the people from the churches were at the forefront of the civil rights movement. Um, but we've lost that today because a lot of these churches have embraced a prosperity doctrine where they're concerned about building cathedrals instead of building communities, where they're concerned about acquiring material possessions instead of trying to repair people's lives. That's the problem. I think that today, you know, the church as a group, I mean, there's many positive examples, but I think that as a group, the church is not doing nearly enough. Whether we're talking about the Christians or the Muslims or even you know, the Hebrews, as a collective, they could be doing much more than they're doing now. And somebody made a great point about how slave rebellions were inspired by the Bible. At least in the case of Nat Turner's rebellion, Nat Turner was inspired by the Bible, literally inspired by the Bible. So when people want to throw the Bible out and throw out religion, they're missing that very key component. A strong brother like a Khalid Muhammad, who you know, was a courageous black man. He was inspired by, you know, religion. Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, and the list goes on and on. Marcus Garvey. Elaine Lloyd said, I think when people bash Black women and men, they aren't focusing on reality. They're focused on social media and the propaganda in the media, believing in stereotypes. Exactly. Elaine Lloyd said that God made a good point about submission and letting a man know he's needed. Yeah, I agree with that. I like how he approached the issue, like how he dealt with it. That was a great point about making a man feel needed, because too often, there are some women that take the idea that, they have this position like where they act like they don't need a man for anything. And they take that kind of posture. They take this attitude that a man is not even necessary. They can do it all on their own. They're the superwoman. They're super strong, and woman, hear me roar, and this and that. Um, they put everything before they put a man. And that makes a man feel like he's not even an important component of their life. He's pushed to the margin. So why should he even stick around, man? And I think that, I think Sonetta was raising that point as well. Why should he even stick around if somebody has this attitude that he's disposable, he's not necessary, and this and that? And this is more common than you would think, man. Unfortunately, a lot of Black women do have that kind of attitude, man. They really do. And I think that's a result of the pain that they've experienced. It's a result of loneliness that some of them have experienced. But it's a reality, man. I've seen it. And Big Game said women want to be men until it's time to fight or pay the bills. Wow, man. Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that. I mean, some women do have that kind of attitude, man. They like ours, and they'll be like submissive when it comes time to pay the tab for that meal at that fancy restaurant. They'll be submissive when it's time to pay for their car note or to pay the rent or something like that. Some of them. But when it comes to other things, they want to tell you what to do. So I kind of feel you on that one. Yeah, so if y'all haven't seen that Google Hangout, man, I encourage y'all to check it out. It's in the description box. And sorry that this is running longer than I expected, man. This is a long hangout, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Psychopathia said, submission is a bad word in our community. Submitting means the man is the leader and ultimately has to have the last say. Not that her opinion is invalid or needed, but the man has final say. Nagon said, respect in a relationship is critical. Yes, it is. Once you lose respect in a relationship, the relationship is dead, man. And once you lose respect and you talk to somebody any kind of way because you're upset with them, you talk to them in such a way that's so disrespectful, that's the beginning of the end of the relationship, man. And the brother Nagon said, if a man is on point, this should be, it should come natural. I guess he's talking about the idea of a woman listening to a man, respecting a man. And I think that that's probably a better word to use besides submission, because I think that when you use that word submission, it sets off all kinds of alarm bells. It sets off all kinds of red flags and this and that. And I get that to a degree. I think a better word would be respect, honor, and all that kind of stuff. Cherish, you know, I think that those are better words instead of submit, because submit, you know, has negative connotations to it. Or even follow. I think follow is even a better word than submit. This guy, Big Game, said, many black women won't respect your opinion even if you showed a track record. I don't know if that's true, man. I think that if a man has a record of making sound decisions in a relationship, you know, steering a relationship in the right direction, you know, making sound financial decisions, sound other types of decisions in a household. I think that when people see that, when somebody sees strong leadership, they tend to follow strong leadership. But if they don't see strong leadership, if they see somebody that doesn't have confidence, who's not assertive, who doesn't follow through with their words, who don't make their words their bond, who don't make things happen, who constantly talk about dreams instead of talking about making something real and actually making it manifest, I think that's when somebody doesn't have respect, and that's when they're not followed. But if they do the opposite and they're actually making their word their bond, and they're actually making their goals and dreams manifest, and they're actually making sound decisions, I think that at that point somebody will listen to them. You know, a woman will follow their example and follow their lead and support them. And I think that you know, again, I don't think that, as I said before, like I don't think that a woman should be like some kind of little servant of a man and just follow a man simply because he's a man, as I said before. Brown Sugar Baby said, yes, when you allow a man to lead, it's a beautiful thing. My female friends admire my marriage. Exactly. And I think that we need to hear from more married people, man, people who are actually married about these relationship issues instead of just hearing from all these like single people. You know, I think that those are the people best suited to talk about relationships. And I think that, you know, probably the next time I do a panel on relationships, it'll be about marriage, and I'll probably feature some married couples. I'm not married myself. I was married for years. You know, I got a divorce years ago. Um, but yeah, I think that, you know, I've had experiences that I can talk about, reflect on, and all that. But I think that the best person to talk about relationship with is somebody that's been in a long-term marriage, you know, somebody that's actually married in a happy and productive marriage. So for that reason, like I would say that even me, like I'm not the best person to be talking about relationships. I think that we need to look to others who have these long-term marriages and stuff like that. And I think that that's a question that needs to be raised. Like, you know, and it's something that Lashid, for you, raised about like why are all these men single, you know, the men that talk about relationships and black love, why are so many of them single and not married? I think that that's a very valid point. And I think that that's a question that could have been raised on that panel about all these black men talking about black love, but none of them are married. And even the same could be true for some of the women on that panel. I don't think any of those women on that panel are married. Um, when I was married, you know, I got married straight while I was still in law school, rather. You know, I was married like when I was 24, and I was married for over 10 years and stuff. But I think that that's a good question that could have been raised. Like, are you married and why not? You know, if not, why not? That could have been a point that should have been raised. And I think Sonetta, if I'm not mistaken, Sonetta was the only person that was married on that panel. I think the brother Garfield said he had been divorced. He was talking about his ex-wife or whatever. But I think that that's an interesting point. And we need to hear from more married people. And, you know, unfortunately, we don't see enough examples of long lasting marriages. I mean, unfortunately, in a lot of our households, there have been divorces, and there are people who their parents were never married. You know, You know, they were raised in just a single parent household. Psychopathy said every team has a leader and role players. Exactly. Everybody has a role. I mean, and that's one thing that people don't want to talk about. Like, what is the role of a man? What is the role of a woman? And some people suggest that even the idea of talking about roles is somehow like a form of oppression, like that somehow there shouldn't be a role for men and women and everybody should be the same and all this and that. And I don't think that that's the case, man. I think that that leads to the type of chaos that we see in our communities. This guy, Big Gabe, is hilarious. He says, my girlfriend tries to sass me all the time, and I've never been wrong on anything in our relationship. I mean, that's funny, man. You got to be wrong about something, man. Man, y'all are a trip. And real Aaron Collins says the gender wars between black men and women is also the result of Willie Lynch, basically another white supremacist construct. Yeah, and I know that Willie Lynch letter is a fabrication, but I think that it still raises good points about division in the black community. And for those of you who haven't seen it, the sister Constance did a hangout on that subject, the Willie Lynch. So I encourage y'all to check out her channel. I'll post a link to her channel in the description box after this video uploads. I wasn't able to join the panel because of other commitments and stuff, but I encourage y'all to check it out and to check out her channel. Okay, Lady Think 24 says the question is why women are like that, especially dark women. We're used to doing by ourselves and not being able to depend on men. That's a good point. I think that that is a very excellent point. That is an excellent point, man. When you look at the situation in our communities where you see so many children being raised in single parent households where there is no living example of male leadership, where you have no example of positive male leadership, then what incentive does such a person raised in an environment have to trust in black male leadership or to believe in it if you've never seen it? It's like a dream. It's like a fantasy. It's not a reality for a lot of people. If you weren't raised in that kind of environment, if your experiences with men haven't been experiences where men have been leaders, where men have been providers and protectors, then that becomes a real question. And that's part of the reason why, you know, a lot of the women do not feel like they can depend on men. And that's a very real issue that has to be addressed. And I agree with Doug, man. Thanks for thanks for the donation. And hit the like button, family. As Doug said, man, hit that like button, man. Share this and share this video, man. Um, all right, so I'm nearing the end of the comments. Endangered Mind said there's expected behavior for a king and a queen. Shout out to Brown Sugar Baby for making your donation. I appreciate it. And the sister said, love your commentary. You are fair and balanced. I love your positivity. Thank you. You know, I appreciate your donation. And I appreciate your positive words in this chat. Yeah, hit that like button. If you like it, man. Yeah, I see people are saying they love Lashee for you and Radical Sister also. Yeah, I mean, there obviously with anybody there are things that I disagree with, but overall I respect those sisters. You know, always have uplifting words for the brothers, even when they disagree with some of the brothers and disagree with some things that some black men are saying. They don't bash black men. They support black men. They defend black men. And I appreciate that, man. They are doing what ZaZa Ali talked about when she talked about speaking life into our men. That's what they do on their channels. And I appreciate that. Unfortunately, too many of our sisters are speaking death into our men, unfortunately, man. But we're not going to focus on them. Like I said before, like I have divested from the negativity. I don't watch any of those people anymore, man. Any of those swirlers, I'm not watching their stuff. I'm not entertaining their negative energy. And I will never, ever, ever have them on my platform again, man. For real. All right, so let's see. Yeah, and I think Big Game brought up the point about chores. He said we're more likely to help with household chores. We have low standards. We have no problem with women making more. And there are a lot of challenges to like the traditional idea of marriage, like this idea that the woman is supposed to be some kind of caretaker and some kind of housemaker and all that kind of stuff. That's not going to come into play in these modern times for a couple of reasons. I mean, if your woman is working 9 to 5 or even longer than that, just like you are, working all day, then why should she be the one to come home and do all the household chores and you not do anything? I think that when it comes to chores, both parties should contribute to that. I don't think that that's a role regulated to women and stuff like that. Um, Especially if you have a situation where both of them are working and both of them are providing for the household, then I think both of them should bear those responsibilities, man. That shouldn't be a responsibility limited to just women. I mean, this is not like the 1950s or the 40s or any of that stuff. I think both of them should bear that responsibility. That's what I think, man. You got some brothers who, don't even work, man. They sitting at home, playing video games all day while their woman is out there putting in that work and they still expect her to do all the household work. I think that's ridiculous, man. And I don't think that a woman should even be in that kind of arrangement, really, man. I think a woman should be with somebody that's a provider and a maintainer, man. All right, so let me get into more of these comments. Y'all have some great comments here. I appreciate it. Oh, I see. Lane Lloyd said, "Ain't nobody in this chat worried about it being too long." Well, I appreciate that, man. So I see that Doug said that he would like to see me on a panel with Dinah's Amir of Search for Uhuru and Information Man Show. So I'm going to write those names down real quick and look them up. I'm not familiar with their work. Let me just write them down real quick. And again, I want to thank the brother Doug for his donation and thank the sister Brown Sugar for her donation. I appreciate it. Oh, I see. I got more comments here. Shout out to the True Royal family. Man, I'm gonna miss some of y'all comments. I'm sorry if I missed your comments. Man, I'm missing all these. Somehow my comments are jumping around. Elaine Lloyd said she manages all the money in her household at her husband's insistence. He insists that's the woman's job. Me and my husband have been married for 12 years. Oh, you could be on the panel. You're interested in being on the panel about marriage? That would be cool to have you actually on the panel. I don't even know if do you actually post content on your channel? I'm gonna have to check your channel out. Let me write that down so I won't forget. I'm gonna have to look you up. Look up. Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to you to see about doing a panel with you and your husband to talk about marriage. Uh, Blue, Black, Purple says, I think men and women need to be capable and have leadership capabilities. If a man is the only one in the relationship with skills, then the woman will be in a bad way should her husband pass away. Yeah, I think that's valid. I mean, a woman should have like her own source of income. I think that a woman should have her own source of income because there are situations that happen like that. Um, and she should be able to run her household if something were to happen to a man. I agree with that. I don't disagree with that point at all. Man, I'm missing a lot of comments here. So y'all gonna have to forgive me if I missed your comments. Somehow my comments jump around. All right. Just bear with me a second, y'all. Again, shout out to the True Royal family. I saw you in here. Yeah, I don't understand why you constantly defend Cynthia G, blue, black, purple. I don't get it. And I think you're a black man. You say you're a black man and stuff. So you basically said I would reach out to her and find out what she means by black men collectively not fighting against white supremacy. I think I know what she means, but clarification is needed. Man, I think she's already said what she means. If you watch that hangout, she says what she means by that. And I don't think that there's any question about that. I mean, she's very clear what she means. She's making it abundantly clear that she doesn't respect most black men. In fact, she asked, what have black men as a collective done to earn the respect of black women? So obviously, this woman doesn't have respect for black men, but you have black men supporting this woman. Yeah, so I disagree with. Oh, somebody said Farrakhan's son died. Wow, I'm gonna have to get on the news and hear about that. I gotta check that out and find out more information. All right, I'm gonna have to hang this up, y'all. I want to thank y'all for commenting. I know I missed a few comments, so I hope y'all could accept my apology for that. I appreciate your support. Yeah, and I appreciate what you said, Ali. I mean, yeah, I have been married. I was married for years, for over 10 years. I can talk about experiences in marriage and stuff, but I want to hear from like people that are happily married from now, in terms of these relationship panels. So I am going to reach out to Elaine Lloyd, talk to her about possibly doing a hangout. So check your inbox. It'll be later on today. I have some things to do immediately after this. So I see that this person that goes by the name of Pro-Black Charlatans lie too damn much. That's a funny name, man. I wonder who that is, who's behind that account. They question Angel's blackness, and I'm not going to get into that discussion. A lot of people do that all the time. You know, he's done videos talking about that issue, and you know, people can go to his content to deal with that issue. I'm not going to deal with that right now. All right. So I'm going to do 2 more comments, and then I'm going to sign out. Oh, so Brown Sugar Baby says she's been married for 24 years, and they're a team. That's awesome, man. 24 years. That's great. And Blue Black Purple says roles in marriage are unique to individual couples. What works for one couple may not work for another. Yeah, that's true, without a doubt. But it's good to hear from happy married people. And I think our people need to see more examples of happy married people. Okay, so Sports Fan said this. She said, married for 20 years in October. Wow, that's awesome, man. That's great. This whole submission topic is toxic because it divides. I think that I mean, I get that, and I understand that. And that word, I think that's a trigger word, really. Um, my husband and I have always been a partnership. He's better at certain things, and I'm better at certain things. Yeah, that's how marriage works. There are certain areas where the man may be stronger in, and there are areas where the wife may be stronger in. And it's part of the responsibility of the couple to realize those areas of strength and weaknesses, and you know, let the man, you know, operate in his areas of strength, and the woman should operate in her areas of strength. Shout out to the True Royal family again. All right, and I'm gonna go do one last comment, and then I'm out of here. And I'll close on this one. Bonafide 1970 said, any type of divisiveness among or between Black men and women in a society that thoroughly despises both is extremely problematic for me. Agreed. And with that, I'm going to say peace and blessings to each and every one of you. Thank you for watching.